What is up, Ravens Flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. Chance and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin, riding solo for this one as Jimmy is out of town. So first and foremost, safe travels to my guy, Jimmy Haskell. But the reason we are here today is, of course, the news does not stop. And there was a ton of Ravens news breaking today. And this was maybe the biggest when it comes to size of the person. No doubt about that. Alejandro Villanueva has announced he will retire from the National Football League after 7 seasons in the league. And now, first and foremost, congratulations to Big Al. Anytime, look, Big Al didn't even think he had a shot at getting this far. I mean, this is a guy who served in the U.S. military, was an Army Ranger, and didn't even think that this was a possibility, a career like he's had. He started in Pittsburgh at the age of 27 and really just wanted to make the roster to get enough money to pay for some schooling. And obviously, he did that and much, much more. He ended up playing 6 seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers, was a 2-time Pro Bowler before finishing his career in 2021 here as a Raven, where, look, he struggled. There was times where he struggled in a big way. Unfortunately, the offense paid the price. But I will say this. It would have been a whole lot worse if Big Al wasn't here. Now, Eric DeCosta clearly made a mistake in trusting that Ronnie Stanley would be healthy, and 2, having Big Al as the one and really only backup plan for if Ronnie Stanley wasn't healthy, which means, of course, that even though he was brought in as a right tackle, with the hopes that he could transition from left to right tackle, he was always the backup plan for if Ronnie Stanley wasn't ready or if there was a reoccurring injury, which, of course, later that became the truth. So we only saw one game at right tackle before he was right back to the left side where he's more familiar, but still at this point in his career, at 33 years old, he certainly struggled at times on that left side. For the most part of the season, he struggled. He did have a couple good games. That Chiefs game was, of course, a bright spot. But the fact that he was able to, at 27 years old, turn in a 7-year NFL career and a 2-time Pro Bowler, you got to give credit where it's due. Happy retirement for Big Al. And but what this does for the Ravens, that's really why we're here. What does this do? How does this help the Ravens moving forward? So what it does is it creates $6 million in additional cap space, which is big because the Ravens at this point, by far the lowest available cap space in the AFC North. And really they're just every year, they're always tight to the cap. This isn't a team that typically has a ton of additional cap space just laying around because they like to spend up to the limit, which of course prevents the carryover cap that we see a lot of teams enjoying. When you see these huge cap space numbers, 50, 60 million, it's because they didn't have the players to spend enough of the, money on the previous year, and you're allowed to carry over some cap from the previous year. So it does provide them with a little bit of extra space. Now, this move in combination with the other moves today, which of course I covered in some of the other videos that we're putting out, they did get up to $15.7 million in total cap space, which gives them some ability to go out there and address some of the holes on the roster. Now, this also prompts them to certainly address the tackle position because while I think the expectation all along was even if Big Al decided to continue his playing career, the Ravens were going to move on. This move certainly seals that fact that they have to find not just a Ronnie Stanley backup, which could be a starter. We at this point, I don't know how much you can even count on Ronnie Stanley being out there week 1, week 2, week 5, week 10. I mean, I just don't know how you can have any insurance that he's going to be out there. So you don't just need a right tackle and you don't just need a swing, like Makari. He's the swing guy. He's a guy that can fill in anywhere if needed. But I don't know if I really want Makari in there as a starter. Certainly not at the left tackle position. Maybe at some of the other spots, but definitely not at the left tackle position. So this means you have to find a right tackle. You got to find a swing tackle. I mean, I guess you could put Makari in there, but then you certainly don't want to pencil him in at left tackle. And you got to find a guy if the worst case scenario and Ronnie Stanley's not able to go again this year, or if he comes back and has another injury, you got to find a guy that you feel good enough protecting your franchise quarterback, Lamar Jackson, on the left side. You just got to. So if nothing else, this just really furthers the need for tackles on this team. I mean, you got Juwan James, who hasn't played in 3 years. So I get that, we have high hopes, and I get a lot of people are high on Juwan James and the what if, but he hasn't played in 3 years. So at this point, I'm not counting Juwan James for nothing. I'm hopeful and I'm encouraged that maybe we get something out of him, but you can't count him for nothing. So you can't. Tyree Phillips, to me, at guard, okay. Maybe. Okay. But at tackle, he hasn't shown that he can play tackle. So I don't count on Tyree for anything at tackle. At Ronnie, again, can't count on Ronnie. So Makari is the guy you feel best about. And to be honest, I want him to stay as our sixth guy. I want him to be our emergency Swiss Army knife that can go in at center if whoever's at center is to go down for a couple games. He can go in at right or left guard. Who can go in at right tackle if need be. But we don't want to pencil Makari in at right tackle, and then we have no Swiss Army knife. We have no backup plan for those other positions. That's something I don't want to do. So this really shows that the Ravens have to invest heavily in the tackle position, and I don't think that's limited to the draft. I mean, I think that they have to address this in free agency. I think they have to, and if they have to at least consider, looking at the trade market. Now, it's always tough, of course, to trade for any offensive lineman, but it's certainly an offensive tackle because there's such high demand on virtually every team. So while I understand that that's probably a long shot that they're going to be in the trade market for a tackle, all I'm saying is they have to explore every option because we cannot go into another season where we have a guy like Big Al who doesn't have the confidence of his quarterback. When Lamar Jackson has confidence in his offensive line, like he did in 2019, I mean, the potential is unanimous MVP, lead the league in touchdown passes, from the pocket, and have 2 perfect passer rating games, which nobody's ever done in one season. I mean, that's the potential. If he has the confidence to step into his throws and that he will not get drilled or he will not get blindsided by an edge defender screaming off the left because our tackle can't keep up. We need to somehow get back to where we have that our quarterback, our franchise, Lamar Jackson, has confidence in the guys in front of him that he's not his head ripped off. Because when he's looking and peeking down and wondering where the rush is coming from, it's a cascading effect that unfortunately, affects the entire offense, the operation. And then what it does is it makes Lamar miss guys who are open because he's looking at a potential rusher and trying to find an escape route. So this certainly emphasizes the need to address the tackle position specifically in all areas, free agency, draft, and even a possible trade. Now, what this does, unfortunately, for the cap is it also causes the Ravens to incur $3.25 million in dead cap space that they will be paying Alejandro while he is retired and he's, doing whatever he's doing, chilling somewhere, hopefully for his sake, because he certainly earned it. A long military career followed by a long NFL career. I'm sure he's got some bumps and bruises he'd like to rest. So while he's resting, the Ravens will be paying $3.2 million. Now, that could, cause some people like, what the? But look, this is commonplace in the NFL. Teams are routinely stuck with some dead cap money. It's the price of doing business, the price of trying to lower cap numbers while they are playing, with the knowledge that you'll likely have to pay a little bit when they leave. And that's just unfortunately the price of doing business. So the total right now dead money that the Ravens have for this upcoming season is $7.3 million, which, it's not great, but when you look around the league, it's certainly not an abnormal figure. And even just in years past, I mean, the Ravens paid Earl Thomas $10 million in dead cap space just last season, I believe. So 7.5 or 7.3 as a group is not something that's going to cripple the team. So, man, I don't know, but to me, it looks like you got to get a guy who can play the tackle position. And it'd be nice to get a guy who's versatile on both sides. So, you look in college and you say, well, who's played both tackles or who at least is open to playing both tackle positions? Because what we don't want to do is have another Orlando Brown situation where you bring a guy in, you explain to him the situation that, look, if Ronnie's in there, you're the right tackle. Because Ronnie right now is being paid $20-some million. And when he's healthy, he was the all-pro. We have to make sure that they're okay with that. We do not want to have another tackle in here who's saying, look, I'm a left tackle and I'm not going to play the right side because let's be honest, they get paid more on the left and they get the prestige more on the left side. So, I mean, look, I'm not saying that they're definitely taking a tackle in the first round, but I'll tell you this, they better come out of the draft with a tackle who's ready to play as soon as week 1. Got to do it because there is no guarantee Ronnie's there. There's no guarantee that Juwan James is on the right side. And there's really not a whole lot after those guys. So, man, it's going to be really interesting to see how because look, typically the Ravens don't go into the draft with a whole bunch of needs, a whole bunch of holes on their roster, because that kind of corners them into having to take certain spots. So what they like to do is fill all their needs roster-wise before the draft hits, so they can go in and take that best player available, as they always like to say. If they go in with a glaring tackle need, then everyone and their brother is going to know that they're going after a tackle. And, they like to keep things close to the vest. Just look at the Lamar Jackson year. No one knew that the Ravens were going to go trade up and draft Lamar Jackson because they kept it close to the vest. Well, if you go in with just these tackles on the roster, I don't care how hush-hush you are. Everyone knows you're taking a tackle. So, first, the free agency period's coming up. It'd be really interesting to see how they address that tackle spot and how aggressive they are to do so, because they can't just go in with this bottom of the barrel guy and expect the quarterback, Lamar Jackson, to have any confidence in his protection. So, man, this is going to be a real interesting next few weeks. Be on the lookout for some other cap casualties from around the league that the Ravens may be able to pounce on and improve their roster. But let me know what you think. I mean, were you happy? Were you surprised? Disappointed? Let me know your thoughts on the Alejandro Villanueva retiring and what they could possibly be doing to replace and, of course, bolster that offensive tackle position. Let me know in the comments below.